Welcome to the February 19th, 2026 Site Plan Review SPRC Subgroup Meeting for the Waverly Ridge Project. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia for the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the Waverly Ridge Project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's events calendar, and the email notifications sent to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it is appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who were planning to provide public comment will need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. I will monitor the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members who are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name and group you are representing now, and I will verbally check to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have the video feed option. To anybody. All right. To unmute yourself, please press *6 to unmute. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called upon to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda item. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees, or provide staff with your name if in person, and you will be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Information Act requirements. So having said that, we'll go around the table here and introduce our fellows. We'll start this way and go that way.
Sure. My name is Kevin Lamb. I'm with the Planning Division. I'm the project coordinator.
I'm Bryce Johnson with the Department of Environmental Services.
I am David Friedman with C2E2, and I'm the alternate for the.
Sandy Chesrone, Waverly Hills Civic Association.
Trisha Choi, Tazewell Place Homers Association.
Dave Early with the Park and Rec Commission.
Jim Lantelmi, Planning Commission.
Stanley Peters.
Karen Gamata, Planning Commission.
Paola Modeo, Planning Commission.
Adriana Torres, Planning Commission.
Peter Robertson, Planning Commission.
Bill Browning, Forest and Natural Resources Commission.
Nicholas Cummings, land use attorney with Walsh Bellucci, here for the applicant.
Brian Normile, developer and applicant.
And I'm Nia Bagley with the Planning Commission, also joining tonight. Do we have commissioners online?
Yes, so we have Mr. Berkey, Mr. Goodman, Mr. Todd, and Joan. Did you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so if you could introduce yourself one by one. Commissioner Berkey, go ahead.
Sure. Eric Berkey, member of the Planning Commission. Thanks.
Mr. Goodman?
Eric?
Eric Goodman. I actually have a question because Dave Early is there. He's also a member of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I wanted to ask, are you going to represent us today, or would you prefer that I represent the PAC in the meeting?
No, it's your job on the PAC. I'll do the PRC. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Joan?
Are you addressing me?
Yeah. Mr. Todd?
Yeah, Jim Todd, President of the Tradedale Citizens Association. We are across the street from this proposed site plan.
And Joan, forget it, dismiss that because we have the roster covered up here. Going around the room.
Tucker Scored, KGD Architecture, the architect on the project.
Karen White with Walter Phillips, civil engineer.
Frank Foley with BCN Homes applicant.
Jessica Washington, Plains. C. Normile, BCN Homes applicant.
And Ginger Brown, Langston Boulevard Alliance. Clara O'Connor, HOA for Taylor Street.
I'm Justin Kopka, member of the public.
Elaine Furlow, member of the.
Okay, online, Karen, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, it's Karen Odon from the Disability Advisory Commission.
All right, thank you so much. So tonight we will be discussing, well, let's do our introduction, finish with the introductions, and before we launch into the meeting with a staff presentation, I would just like to remind everybody that we live in a very complicated world, sometimes very stressful, although right now I think most of us who have been watching the Olympics are pretty, pumped with what happened this evening. So, yes, I know. So, but having said that,
Don't spoil it.
huh?
Don't spoil the result.
Okay. You'll be home in time. They'll save it for the end. But just as a reminder, this is where we all come together to have an opportunity to weigh in as various stakeholders on projects. And at least it's been my experience that this sort of process has enabled us to come out at the end with a better project than what we went in with. And as such, that only happens if we have thoughtful, productive conversations. And so I am going to hope that everybody will remain civil so we can do that. However, as chair, I would reserve my right to give anybody an adult timeout if that does not happen. So having said that, so Mr. Lamb, would you like to go ahead?
Yes. So I'll kick things off with staff's presentation before handing it off to the applicant for theirs. So tonight, I'll begin staff's presentation with an overview of the project before we get to the following topics for discussion. So for staff's presentation, we'll focus on the first three as well as the community benefits one. The applicant has more to share with regards to green building and sustainability as well as construction phasing. So they'll be able to cover those more in depth. So again, the site itself is located at 2134 North Taylor Street in the Waverly Hills neighborhood. The site currently consists of unoccupied single-family dwellings, a few outbuildings, as well as a large forested area. The site is bounded by Cherry Hill Road down here and North Taylor Street, and it's surrounded by various multifamily residential condos and apartments, townhouses, and there are some low-density commercial buildings on this block here. So again, this slide may look familiar, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate consistency with the Langston Boulevard area plan, which the site is subject to. So as illustrated in the Area 3 concept plan, the area plan itself contemplates multifamily development at this site. So based on this building typology, which is characterized by vertical density achieved within a single building, the area plan supports development of the site while advancing several plan goals, which are listed here. So these include expanding equitable housing choices, in the form of accessible and affordable housing. In terms of building design, having it oriented toward and designed to enhance the public realm. Sure.
Can you share the screen? We're not seeing it in the virtual.
Me
They're not.
exit and then.
Yeah, hold on. Thank you for letting us know that.
Let me know if you don't see it.
I just see all of your lovely faces.
Apologize.
Sorry.
Yeah,
That
sorry
could be
about that.
worse.
I'm seeing the presentation. So I don't know, maybe some are and some aren't.
Might have to change the view settings. If you click view at the top of the screen and then focus on content, that might bring it up for you.
I still have Kevin Lamb.
The other thing that might be possible if we can't fix this is the presentations are online. You could grab a copy of it and just put along. That's not perfect, but it's something.
You could also try exiting and
Yes, coming back.
entering.
Maybe we can provide a link in chat.
I do apologize.
Don't worry, they've done.
Technical.
See it, some people don't.
Technical.
I think what's important is you're responsible.
Even though it's a break.
So Bryce is gonna drop the link in the chat so everyone can follow along. So we're on slide 4 for everyone's talking about the Langston Boulevard area plan. So it's going to the
Got a mic?
Somebody needs to mute.
I think we got it. So in terms of site access, back to the area plan, there was a goal to consolidate curb cuts in order to reduce pedestrian conflicts. For the area plan, it was contemplated to be on the property line with Yorktown condos there. In terms of transportation, enhancing safety and mobility for pedestrians and cyclists on surrounding streets. Another goal is to improve connectivity and walkability throughout the neighborhood. In terms of public space, increasing neighborhood access to public spaces. Providing common amenity spaces, and then in terms of tree canopy, expanding the tree canopy coverage, there is a 35% site-wide coverage goal for this area. All right, next slide. In terms of project updates, so in terms of the applicant's latest resubmission from mid-January, the main project update is shifting the driveway entrance slightly east on Cherry Hill Road in order to better align with North Utah Street down here. In addition, the above-grade transformers were also relocated. So there's 2 here and then 1 here now, which slightly increases the size of this public space triangle to 10,279 square feet. All right, so getting into kind of the topics for tonight. So each of the townhouse units consists of 4 floors, but there are 3 types of townhouse units, which vary in number of bedrooms as well as square footage shown in this table. Architecturally speaking, the townhouses consist of various shades of brown and gray brick with white and gray siding. And as you can notice here, the roof lines of the townhouses also vary, with some consisting of traditional paved roofs here, while others consisting of contemporary flat roofs. So I'll hand it off to Bryce to talk about transportation and parking.
Okay, so over the next few slides, I'll cover the transportation overview project. I did want to start by framing the transportation review with context of the transportation policies found in the Langston Boulevard area plan, which Kevin covered earlier. On the left is an excerpt of the area plan street network map for Area 3, where the site is located. It does identify Cherry Hill Road and North Taylor Street as existing primary streets. I do want to note that the area plan has specific guidance for each street, including development of wider, consistent streetscapes, including 6-foot wide sidewalks. The area plan also anticipates new service streets to serve development at this location, but does note that the final configuration will be dependent on the proposed development. Next, on the right is an excerpt of the bicycle network map. I do want to note that the area plan recommends bike lanes along Cherry Hill Road, shown in the dashed orange line, and then sharrows along North Taylor Street, shown in the dashed yellow lines. Next slide, please. So next, here's an overview of the proposed site access. On the screen is shown a plan of the site north oriented to the top left of the screen. The applicant proposes internal service streets to serve development, as you can see. The townhomes will each have 2-car rear-loaded garages. The applicant proposes a total of 100 parking spaces, including 94 spaces within the garages at a ratio of 2 spaces per unit, 11 on-street spaces for visitors at a ratio of 0.23 spaces. That does include 1 ADA compliant space at the northwest corner of the site. To access the garages, the applicant proposes the new service roads that I mentioned before. These streets will connect to the public road network. The 2 which connect to the public road network will be named North Piedmont Court, connecting to Cherry Hill Road, and 21st Court North, connected to North Taylor Street. These new street connections will allow for the removal of 6 existing driveways along Cherry Hill Road. Additionally, the applicant proposes 8 visitor bike parking spaces at the proposed open space at the corner of Taylor Street and Cherry Hill Road. So here we will review the proposed Cherry Hill Road conditions. This slide shows a map of the site on the left, the street cross section on the right, and a summary of the proposed changes at the table at the bottom. Today, Cherry Hill Road is approximately 30 feet wide, including 2 vehicle travel lanes, and the streetscape is about 8 feet wide, including a 4-foot wide landscape strip and 4-foot wide sidewalk. The applicant proposes to widen the street to about 31.5 feet to allow for an 11.5-foot and 13-foot wide travel lanes and a new 5-foot wide bike lane. The applicant also proposes a wider 12.5-foot wide streetscape to include a 6.5-foot wide tree pits and a 6-foot wide sidewalk. We'll also note that Cherry Hill Road is owned and maintained by VDOT, who also has to review and approve any changes affecting this frontage. Now we can review the North Taylor Street conditions. Today, North Taylor Street consists of a 22-foot wide condition, including 1 7-foot wide parking lane and a 15-foot wide yield condition street. The site's frontage contains no curb, gutter, or streetscape. The applicant proposes to widen the street to an approximately 34.8-foot wide condition. This new street section will retain the parking lane opposite the site, provide approximately 11 and 10-foot wide travel lanes, and a new 7-foot wide parking lane along the site's frontage. Additionally, the applicant proposes a new 13-foot wide streetscape consisting of 7-foot wide tree pits, 6-foot wide clear sidewalk. Now I will review or provide an overview rather of the proposed private internal service streets. On the right are cross sections of the streets which will connect to the public right of way. Those being North Utah Court shown on the top and 21st Court North shown on the bottom. At the entrance to the site, North Utah Court will be about 30 feet wide before expanding to the 42-foot wide condition shown in the image. The 42-foot wide condition is to provide the 26-foot wide clear aerial access for fire, as well as on-street parking. This section will consist of an 8-foot wide parking lane on either side of the street, plus 13-foot wide travel lanes. The streetscape on either side of the street will be 10 feet wide, consisting of 5-foot wide landscape strips and a 5-foot wide sidewalk on either side. However, I do want to note that there will be a different streetscape condition at the entrance from Cherry Hill Road. Here it'll be an 11.5-foot wide streetscape on the west side, consisting of 6.5-foot wide landscape strip and the 5-foot wide sidewalk. On the east side of the entrance to make way for the wider entrance, there will only be the 5.5-foot wide landscape strip. The bottom image is the proposed 21st Court North section. This street will be about 23 feet wide. Again, to allow fire access through the site, this will include 11.5-foot wide travel lanes in either direction. On the south side of the street will be a 4.5-foot wide landscape strip abutting the ends of the 60 townhomes. On the north side will be that 10.5-foot wide landscape strip. Now we'll review the remaining streets. So here's a graphic of all of the internal service streets. It includes the 2 I just covered for reference. In orange, on the left, there will be another service street, which will be 26 feet wide. This is the other fire aerial access street. This, similar to North Utah, will include two 13-foot wide travel lanes either direction. It provides direct access to the rear of the garages. In red, the remaining streets will be 23 feet wide to allow fire access through the site. Similar to 21st Court North, these will include two 11.5-foot wide lanes in each direction. In blue is the North Utah Court section that I already mentioned before. That's 42 feet wide. And then in purple is where North Utah Court is 30 feet wide, where it connects to Cherry Hill Road. I've also marked the internal 5-foot wide sidewalks, the dashed green lines. That might be a little hard to see from here. Generally speaking, these sidewalks link the front doors back to Cherry Hill Road and North Taylor Street, where the streets abut the garages. There will be no sidewalks. And then for context, I also have the public sidewalks along Cherry Hill North of Taylor Street, shown in the darker green dashed lines.
All right. So moving on to the final topic, community benefits / site plan features and improvements. So in terms of site plan features and improvements, as a reminder, the applicant is not requesting additional density. Therefore, the community benefits are informed by area plan recommendations for public space, as well as streets and streetscapes, as well as providing the standard set of improvements for site plan projects. As a reminder, the proposed density also does not meet the threshold density in order to require the base affordable housing contribution. So looking at these bullets here, as recommended by the area plan, the applicant is providing a new public space, though it is not the approximately 17,400 square feet identified in the area plan. They will be responsible for maintaining the proposed public space and installing it. The applicant is also dedicating a portion of their property to the county for street purposes on North Taylor Street, and are also installing new bike infrastructure per the area plan recommendations. And then finally, as with all site plans, the applicant is providing the following listed here. So new sidewalks, curb gutter, street trees, the public art contribution. They will be undergrounding adjacent existing utilities. They will be contributing to the utility undergrounding fund. And then they will be planting new trees and conducting tree replacement per the county standards. So in terms of community engagement, back in December, staff hosted an online engagement opportunity, which garnered 136 participants and 641 comments. So in terms of tonight's discussion topics, most respondents feel the building height is compatible with surrounding uses. Respondents appreciate the use of brick in the building facades, but some did critique the boxy and generic look of some of the townhouses. Many respondents believe the 2-car private garages provide ample parking, but many also expressed concerns about insufficient visitor parking and potential spillover onto nearby streets. There is also broad support for the bike lane on Cherry Hill Road, and most welcome the proposed stormwater management facilities. A summary of the responses has been posted to the project webpage, which goes into more depth for each of the topic areas. We also conducted our typical community outreach to relevant groups and promotion methods through county channels. So finally, tonight's SPRC meeting will be followed by the Transportation and Planning Commission meetings, anticipated April at the earliest, followed by the county board. So that concludes staff's presentation. I will now hand it off to the applicant and I can share your presentation.
That's fine, whatever's easier. If Ms. Washington has it queued up, she can do it, but if I am, that's fine too. I'll say briefly, obviously, Nick Cummings with the applicant here again. Want to thank everyone for coming to the second meeting. I thought we had a great first meeting, and I'm happy to follow up on it. Go to the next slide. I'm going to try to move relatively briskly through this, but also not repeat things that Bryce so eloquently outlined for us, and Kevin as well. So for anyone who wasn't present last time or wants a refresher, the proposal is to develop the site with 47 townhomes with 2-car parking garages. They are 3.5 to 4 stories. Some have rooftop decks. They're handsomely designed homes with high quality finishes on all ends. We're going to be talking about that in a bit when we get through architecture. We have 94 parking spaces in units, 11 visitor spaces on our internal streets, and we had 8 new public street parking spaces with our plan too. Kevin, I think, was just talking about it. This proposal includes brand new streetscapes, stormwater management infrastructure, and public open space, all of which implements the Langston Boulevard area plan. Let's go to the next slide. Staff, I think you guys summarized a little bit of what we talked about last time, but we did discuss land use and density, site design and layout, as well as open space and landscaping. Like I said, I think it was a really good discussion. I think some of the most important comments probably came about through the public open space, the intent and thought behind the plan, and in particular, what was and wasn't considered when the plan was developed and the artist plan was already approved. We had representatives from the Langston Boulevard Alliance here who were able to speak to that, which I think was really helpful. Let's go to the next slide. We have updates from last time. Those project updates, we expanded the public open space by about 300 square feet, which puts us just above actually where Artist was with the previous approval. We moved the entrance on Cherry Hill East and a unit west to align with North Utah Street. That was based on staff and VDOT guidance. Added an ADA parking space on North Taylor. We refined the open space layout and a little bit of the design with some input from staff as well. We met with them and talked more about how we were designing the open space. And there were revisions to stormwater designs on Cherry Hill and North Taylor, all of which were also coming from coordination with staff. And then finally, coordinating Cherry Hill improvements with VDOT, which those in the know it was never fun. That VDOT is a little bit more difficult to deal with because it's their street, which is not the normal thing in Arlington. Let's go to the next slide. All right, building height and form. We're now getting into what the units look like and how they were designed. We are proposing 3 to 4 story homes. The mechanical units will be located on the roof, meaning they're not on the ground level where they would be more visible to the public. They're all out of the line of sight from public right of ways and internal streets. We have 2-car garages in all the units, other than I want to mention units 1 through 8 really fit 1 car in the garage and have a driveway space. The 20-foot units, I know we touched on this last time, but there had been questions about this subsequent. The 20-foot units, the bigger units, can accommodate the installation of an elevator for accessibility or for aging in place, or really for whatever anybody's needs or desires are. That's something that the purchaser could elect to install in their unit, that they're obviously at their expense, the same as buying and building the unit. The 16-foot units cannot, they're simply too narrow. And the impacts on living spaces, on the garage, et cetera, make it just infeasible. They basically become a layout that we think people wouldn't even want to buy. There's just not enough space to put that elevator in there. Flat roofs may be able to accommodate solar panels or a low profile green roof. There are some structural concerns related to loads being located so high up on the top floor of wood frame structures. You know, these go up story by story, as you're seeing. Such that options might be a little bit more limited as far as like what heavier equipment could fit up there for photovoltaics or for a green roof. But we can explore more of that as we're going through building permit on this, and are happy again to offer those options to folks who are interested. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to show floor plans here for the 20-foot wide units. The depth of this unit is about 40 feet. We have efficient stacking of the circulation core through all the floors. We really try with these units to maximize the efficiency of the layout to provide the best usable living space within the square footage. They're generously sized, but as you know, these units are still going to be smaller than your typical single family home that's new in Arlington County, which is over 5,000 square feet. We really feel like these are well designed in a way that every single square foot can be used and should be used. They include up to 4 bedrooms, 4 full bathrooms, and 1 half bath. The ground floor space provides some flexibility for an office, a workspace, a bedroom. I think there's a bathroom attached to that, or an exercise room. It helps accommodate families, multi-generational, or varied living arrangements where you might have somebody who needs to be on the first floor. Overall, they're designed to be open floor living experiences with generous windows, providing ample daylight and connections to the outdoor landscape. In the next 2 slides, I'm going to show some elevations, and I can speak a little bit more in detail about the architectural inspiration. The surrounding context here provided visual cues. We have flat roofed masonry buildings in red, brick, tan, and buff tones drawn from the neighborhood to the east, west, and north. They're used to inform a design response that is both contextually grounded and architecturally refined. And Chris is here, he can speak more to exactly what that means. Building materials, elevations, architectural design, and massing composition have been carefully considered to achieve an attractive and cohesive result. A flat roof is a deliberate contextual choice. It's modern, refined interpretation of the dominant roofline typology that frames this site on all three sides. Brick is the primary cladding material, and honoring that neighborhood precedent with that masonry, but expressed through a curated four-color palette that brings warmth and variation rather than monotony, which is definitely something that we see sometimes in Arlington with use of brick. We work to add texture to the facade too, with unit bays that are modulated to create pedestrian interest and interior functionality. Generously sized windows within each bay flood the interiors with natural light and maintain a strong visual connection between inside and outside. This is a biophilic design principle that grounds residents in the natural landscape and the changing seasons around them. And finally, we did consider the historic context of the neighborhood. We chose not to imitate it, but rather to provide a contemporary aesthetic that is both contextually informed and forward-looking, meaning development's design and marketing goals for these new families who are going to buy these units, while delivering a street experience that we think raises the bar for residential architecture on this corridor. Moving on to transportation, I do want to make sure that we get through this, get to discussion, so I'm not going to linger too much. There's some perspectives here we can run through them, and we can look at these later as we're discussing design. Those renderings are, I think, gorgeous. Transportation. We talked about this last time a bit, but I really want to highlight that we reduced the curb cuts from 6 to 1. That is a Ontario, which is a very, very good thing for pedestrian safety, including only one curb cut on North Taylor, where it's an open site along its entirety today. There are significant improvements to all modes of transportation here, including pedestrian traversal. Reduced density from the approved plan, which is of course an assisted living facility with employees and residents and quite a few more people than we would have living in this community, means less impacts to traffic on this neighborhood road. That includes multiple modes of transportation, including cyclists and pedestrians. The trip generation numbers just shy of 50% reduction from the approved plan, which is great. The inclusion of public open space, new street and sidewalk improvements, and enhanced improvements on Cherry Hill Road is just going to make everything safer. Less traffic and fewer curb cuts and increases pedestrian safety, all of which is a goal of the plan. I'm going to the next slide. This highlights our parking across the site, where we show where we have 2 car garages, we have 11 on-site visitor parking spaces, and then the 8 public parking spaces on North Taylor Street. Often in these presentations, we'd also do a deep dive on the streetscape itself. I think Bryce outlined that perfectly and really showed what we're doing and where we're doing it, what the different width and dimensions are. We can, of course, refer back to all of that during discussion. Next, I think we have a slide on parking dimensions. There were some questions on whether or not we accommodate in the larger units, the 2 full-size spaces. We do, except for the 8 on the west stick. Next slide is green building. Those are the garage dimensions. That's going to be what proves to you that it does fit. And we can walk through that if anyone's still concerned. Let's go to the next slide. Perfect. We've met with staff to discuss options for green building. Important to remember here, like staff said, we're not requesting any bonus density, so we're not participating in the green building incentive program. We do understand, though, and agree that these are important issues for the community. We can confirm we would include Energy Star appliances, water sense fixtures, pre-wired charging outlets in each garage, and LED lights, all of which are elements of GBIP, but all of which would be included in this community. We're also aware the county had previously endorsed a certification program for townhomes. I think it was called Green Choice. They don't use that program any longer. We researched this and may have a certification program for townhomes the county has not yet used, and we're exploring its use on this project. We're going to discuss that with county staff, and it's possible that we could maybe be a pilot for a new certification program that hasn't been used previously. Our team can speak more to that. Obviously, it'll be up to Paul Roman and Ms. Keeple whether or not they're interested in pursuing that with us, but it's something we can look at. So that's what we have for today, and we're eager to jump into discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before we start, Claire, can I have you move to the table because you really should be part of the,
Okay.
yes. So if you can, if somebody can accommodate space down there.
Terry.
And Claire, if you wouldn't mind maybe making a nameplate. If somebody could just pass that down for the other bit. All right, having said that, let's start with any clarifying questions. Clarifying. I think there's clarifying questions about the presentations. Yes.
Colby, I just had a quick question about the 8 units that don't have full size garages. Can you tell me, sorry, how big are those garages and where would a second car?
Yeah, let's, Jess, if you can, pull up the garage dimensions slide.
Wi-Fi muted, so.
Okay, Kevin might be able to do it. Thank you, Kevin. So the narrower units, they probably could in theory fit 2 cars in the garage, but given the way most people use the garage, it's gonna be a little bit narrow for that. And we wanted to be more upfront with that it's probably a little narrow for 2 cars. So definitely for that 16-foot unit, that would be more likely to fit 1 vehicle in that garage. And then you can use the driveway just outside of it for second space.
16 to 2 and. And technically, you asked about units 1 through 8. The 19-foot unit, if we were to expand this a little bit, and you'll see your inside dimension on the garage. It's right there where your cursor is. At 18 feet, that actually is technically wide enough to be classified as a 2-car garage because of Arlington County standards require 8.5 feet per space. But we've called out in our plans 1 on the inside and then 1 outside. But technically, by Arlington County standard, you could put 2 cars in there. It does qualify as 2 spaces in there. We just have chosen not to.
Hold on just a second. I see, Jim Todd, I see your hand is up. You have a clarifying question?
I do. Could you review again the Langston area plan open space guidance for the lot in terms of square footage versus what the applicant is proposing? I think I heard that the Langston plan was larger, and I was just trying to clarify the 2 numbers again.
Yeah, so let me.
Working on it. Which presentation?
Thank you.
So this, conceptually, this shows what is envisioned for the site. And this triangular green space is what is identified as public space. And the size of this entire green space is identified as 20,000 square feet minimum to have kind of plaza and park hybrid amenities, meaning it should be some hardscape, some softscape landscaping. So that's for the entire triangle. However, part of the triangle is not on this site. So we kind of adjusted the size approximately to what is actually identified to be on the site, which is around 17,400 square feet. That help answer the question?
Well, and then the applicant's proposing 10,300 square feet, so still about 7,000 square feet less. Is that correct?
Correct.
Has the applicant provided a reason for that, or should I save that question for later?
Save that question. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was okay. 10.
So I wanted to clarify the additional extra space we're getting for public open space because the staff presentation said since the last update, you're getting 105 extra square feet, but the applicant said we're getting 350 extra square feet. So that's a pretty big difference. You could fit a whole tree on that difference. Increase our tree canopy. So
sorry, what was the question?
So like on your slide, the difference in open space from like the update is 105. So like 10,279 minus 10,174 is 105. But on the applicant presentation, they said they're providing 350 extra square feet since the last update. So
I think what I showed at SPRC number 1 is the 10,175. It might be that your original submission was.
The, my colleagues behind me can help explain because we went over this, over the course of the last few weeks as we found space, we added space, et cetera. And so,
How did we get to our additional units?
Well, I think the one part is just what we're doing here. So the original submission was say less than 10,000, and
Yeah.
now we're over 10,000. And so I think when we came to SPRC, we were like in the middle of making the changes. So that might be the difference in those two. Like what R300 is from their like number, if that makes sense. So I think that's a comparison. But in general, if you want to know how we got the area, it was really how kind of.
Well, I don't,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Your final number is the same. It was just like, since the last meeting, like, it looks
We're
like you guys are providing more.
it's what the baseline is then, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a few questions. How much of that open space was provided for in the artist version of this?
Around 10,000.
This
It was
is roughly the same as this, right?
correct.
Smallest.
Okay, and that was approved years ago through the same site plan process.
But that was approved.
Okay, artist is 10,174. So the left-hand side there is the artist plan, and then the revised layout on the right.
Not the artist plan, the artist.
The artist number.
Yeah, our original layout included 9,928 square feet. Our new revised layout includes 10,279 square feet, which is an increase from what artist was approved at, was 10,174.
But my point is that, so we're really staying what we had when we approved this years ago for the artist application.
That's what they're proposing. Artist was approved in 2020.
Right.
Pre-Langston Boulevard area plan. So the area plan, knowing what artists approved, it still recommended a larger.
Something. Did artists include, that was simply public space rather than the green space that elsewhere on the artist site? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If you want, I can go back to a slide from SPRC 1 if the group is interested. I do have kind of a slide showing all of these comparisons.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to get it. I just wanted to make sure we were comparing what we have now with what we had approved in 2020, even though it was prior to the Langston area plan.
Yeah, it's around the same.
The space on the very far west of the site. Right, that's all private. That it's not open to the public, even though people could walk along the sidewalk there. But that's green space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's not considered, and I understand that's not public space. That's part of the property of this development.
Yeah.
It'll be subject to the HOA.
Exactly. And obviously we planted as many trees as we could.
Right, but it is still open space, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
And there's, I don't think there's a fence around any of that. Obviously, each unit. is
Right, people walk
people
through it,
use,
yes.
But people can walk over.
I mean, this is a permeable site, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, those are my questions.
Seeing that there are no other. Jim, do you still have another question? Jim, online? Jim Todd?
Yes, well, and it's just about open space. It's just basically, I was just, because the Langston area plan was adopted and it did, recommend 17,000 square feet. I was wondering why both staff and the applicant, what their reasons were for departing from that number. I realize again that artist was approved at a 10,000 square foot public space, but artist was going to have an interior courtyard garden for its memory care patients, which maybe the public couldn't see, but they would still, other people would benefit from seeing it in the apartments to the north, and visitors would potentially benefit from it. So I'm just curious what is staff's reason for allowing what seems like a fairly dramatic reduction in open space, and then secondarily the developer, but I'm more interested about hearing from staff.
I don't know if you want to start. If you want us to
I
start.
could start first. So we haven't made a recommendation on this yet. We are still reviewing it, primarily against the Langston Boulevard area plan guidance. We have identified it as a significant deviation that we're reviewing internally, but also looking to gather feedback from the community, from SPRC members on their thoughts about that deviation. So by no means have we made a recommendation yet. We're still kind of going through the process with the public to see, their feedback.
From our perspective, first off, I think that you referenced correctly some of the planning guidance that is at issue here, because the LBAP was, of course, adopted subsequent to the approval of the artist site that had the 10,000-ish square feet of open space. And we modeled our proposal based a bit off of the size of that open space, both because the open space size that's recommended in the Langston Boulevard area plan is simply a lot for a townhome community to take on, because 20,000 square feet that's going to be maintained by an HOA with 47 units, that's a lot to put onto them. We think that the park of this size, particularly the way that we have redesigned it to echo some of the principles in the Langston Boulevard area plan that call for a green connection between Langston and Cherry Hill here, that call for the kind of programming that we have. We think it's a great neighborhood sized park. We can show, we've got a good slide with some examples of similar sized parks that are similar in their nature and their purpose in serving a neighborhood of this size. They're littered throughout the county, but there's plenty of good examples of something this size that fits really well. Also, from a policy perspective, I'll mention, we're not asking for bonus density on this project. So the delivery of substantial community benefits like this that are identified in plans, while that's a expectation of the county, it is not necessarily a legal requirement, and all of these benefits that we provide need to have a nexus to the impact of the development itself. So I think that asking for a substantial 20,000 square foot park with a townhome development of 47 units is just a bit out of proportion as well in practice. But it's really that we've been able to lay out a community that we think is going to be really successful, that we think is going to have enough units to make this project work, and that provides a really great neighborhood park of an appropriate size that matches the approval today that could be built, right? Somebody could go ahead and build the artist facility today, and the park would be exactly the size that was approved in 2020. So those are some of the factors that have influenced our thinking. I'd love to show maybe that sample slide so I think it would be nice.
Not sure which slide.
Yeah, and I
Just so you would keep that.
Mr. Todd, the other thing I'll mention is just, it's more obvious to some of us, but if we were going to expand the park to roughly 20,000 or 17,000 square feet, we'd almost certainly end up losing a row of units, and the project would simply not work at that point.
So just to be clear, in no way am I suggesting that 20,000, or I think the county said 17,000 is appropriate. I was just wondering if there is a middle ground, if we lost one or two more units somewhere, just gave us a pinch more open space. And I just wanted the developer to consider that, staff to consider that. And then the other thing I'll just throw out is there any other landscape improvement area across the street from the property, adjacent to the property, next door? There's a lot of asphalt in front of the Yorktown condos. Is there something like other site plans in Cherrydale, for example, have done median improvements and things like that? There's no median here, but I just want to throw that out for consideration for staff, basically, because it just, so, I'm not suggesting all 7,000 feet is something that Cherrydale is seeking. It's just really more a question I'm posing is there a middle ground, a compromise, another creative solution? Because I do really like the park that has been designed. I'm very aware it's basically the same size and same basic design as Artis's, but I'm noting that the guidance was hoping for a very substantial open space, and I was just wondering if there's some middle ground, some creative solution that maybe goes slightly beyond the four corners of this property that still gives the public a sense of more greenery, green space, more tree planting, something.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. We're going to move on. Commissioner Torres, you had
I had
my question.
3 clarifying questions. One was about the elevators. He mentioned that they are not going to be possible for the 16-inch, 60-foot units, but they are going to be for the 20, but he didn't mention anything about the 19, so I wanted to know about that. And I also wanted to know if they would just be elevators that are 3x3, which is a standing elevator, or if it would be able to accommodate a wheelchair. My second question would be if the terrace that's optional would be able to accommodate a lot of planters if someone wanted to make it into a garden, the structure. And the third question is, you moved one transformer. I'm wondering why not all of them were moved so that the green space could be bigger.
Those are great. I wrote down a few. The 19-foot unit and the elevators and the nature of the elevators that you're able to install on these units. What can you say?
Yep, so the 19s, it may be possible, but it's very difficult to accommodate it. The other consideration is how would accessibility be to get it itself? We've gone through exhaustive studies on the topography to get 0 step into the units themselves, because that's very critical for accessibility. And none of the 19s have a 0 step front.
So the 20s with the 0 step and the ability to best handle an elevator are the best solution for anyone with accessibility concerns. I will say that these are for purchase units. Anybody coming in can make a decision about whether or not they want to squeeze the elevator in or make the change that we think a lot of people might not want to. That's still a choice that they can do. And then chair lifts are less, they take less space. They can be cumbersome. I'm not yet an expert on how that works for install, et cetera, but I know that that's an option that could be used by some people. I do think that if folks are buying something here and they're looking at a new home of substantial value, they're probably going to gravitate towards the 20-foot size that can fit the elevator comfortably if they have that need.
Chris, I think it would fit a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that was one of your questions. The loads for the terrace or the garden, I want to say yes, but I want to check. It's like planters, other sorts of things. If I bring up bags of soil up there from Home Depot and things.
Yeah, the difficulty of it is that when you talk about a green roof, it has to support the weight of that additional. But it not only has to accommodate the weight of the additional, whenever you maintain a roof, when you get a leak or anything else, what do you do with all that soil? Whatever, you have to double stack it, triple stack it on another. So you have to beef up the structure in order to cover that. Somebody maintain stack that. That's a lot of weight.
And that's green roof. What if I'm going to Home Depot and I buy the planter table that you fill with body soil?
It's still, and we can accommodate that on some of the units in certain locations, but it would be very difficult to do that across the entire roof surface.
Okay, so that's definitely something a buyer would have to talk to them about how heavy of stuff they can put up on the roof terrace. The transformer is probably a question for Karen. We did move one, and that helps.
What was the question?
There was a transformer that she believed was moved to help create more open space.
Well, right now there's 2 closer to the intersection, and there's one that got moved to the left side. So it's really about spreading around throughout the site. We can keep looking and working with Dominion, but there's different rules about how far you can be from the transformer to where it's going. We continue to talk to Dominion. They have to approve our plans.
It's actually 2 transformers and 1 switch. So the switch needs to split to both. So by putting one on the west end of the site, it lessens all the runs between it, and it's more in line with limitations that DEV places on the number of elbows, turns, where conduit can run. So it's the switch and transformer on the east side and 1 transformer.
Okay. Jim Tata online, unless you have a different qualifying question, I'm going to move the discussion on to the topics that we're covering tonight. Because your hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll unraise my hand. No, please proceed.
Thank you. All right, So let's go to our first topic for tonight, which is building height, form, and architecture. Comments, questions, concerns? Okay. We appreciate the architecture. We think it's quite good. So the neighborhood is excited about the contemporary. Eric, I see you online. Eric Goodman.
Yes, I'm actually going to just give feedback on one of my members that gave me some notes. They basically felt that that they would like to see building heights similar to the taller buildings around this. They say it may look out of place, and they said it should be more like what was in the Langston plan. So just passing that on.
Thank you.
Can we go to the elevations? What's the grade change? That I see some.
It's a great change.
Great change, yeah.
Which elevation?
Well, both of them, they show a great change, and I'm not sure.
Oh, Cherry Hill.
It's about 6 feet from. So from the total frontage along Cherry Hill drops about 6 feet.
Okay.
I think that stick is the western stick, so that drops about 4 to 5 feet along the front.
So it's relatively flat along Cherry Hill. This is at the sort of the top of the hill. So it's relatively flat, but going from Cherry Hill back to the north, it's much steeper.
Because I'm trying to understand the alignment. If you have a grade change, the alignment of the floors, the entrances, the garage. Because I kind of drew a straight line on my screen. It was kind of staggered. So I was trying to figure out if that's what you're accounting for. If you're treating it as flat, but then it's not flat.
The units do step down with the grade. That's
okay.
So like the first floors, typically most first floor steps between units. There might be a couple that don't, but in general, they step between the units.
That's the end of negotiation is front to back. The back elevation is different from the front.
So I guess what I'm asking, so then these lines here.
Yes, they stagger.
They're right, but kind of in a random way, or is there like
No, they're following with grade.
They're following the grade?
Yes.
Okay.
As much as possible, however, the grade change from the front to the back also dictates where that ends up being.
Because they're all next to each other, and to me, they look like there's just variation there that I can't quite figure out whether it's just basically you've aligned the same unit but staggered it, or if you've actually followed the grade. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're primarily following the grade, yes.
Okay, so then the balconies will not align.
No. Sometimes there'll be a couple of units that might be the same elevation if it's but not on Cherry Hill. And some of that grade change, as I said, is the change is the negotiation between the front and the back.
So that's true for the balconies on the garage side.
Yes. Yeah. The floor plates will go along with the elevation, yes.
Could I see the site plan also? What are, some of the garages seem to have a black spot, some of them like that rectangle. What is that?
Those are the balcony indicators.
Those are the balcony. Thank you.
Gonna be black.
I was, okay. So all the units are getting balconies in the back except for the.
Not all, just the ones indicated.
It's an option.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. It's an option.
Okay, so can you help me read this then?
So these are not balconies?
They're indicated as balconies, yes. But the
So these
balcony,
all get balconies except for then these.
It's an extra cost.
Okay.
This, in the site plan process, we don't designate necessarily where all the balconies are. Every unit could possibly have a balcony if
Okay.
by a balcony,
Okay.
or there could be none.
You're just showing options.
We're showing them now.
Okay. I was trying to read that.
And when we have to, because the county's gonna want, when any one of these gets a building permit, the 4.1 plans to match the building permit plans perfectly. And we have to demonstrate that optionality now, so that it's reviewed and determined to be acceptable if people choose to implement it.
Just checking in.
So the artist rendering shows fully grown trees in front of the townhomes. You have sufficient soil volumes for those trees?
Yes.
How long will it take? So
I know we do, because we have county standard ones, they push us really hard on this, but keep going.
No, I
It's a great-
just assumed there was enough soil volume, but how long will it take them to get there?
Yeah, I mean, Karen, could you tell me roughly how long a tree is gonna take to get to maturity with these volumes? I mean, I'm thinking 6-7 years at minimum.
The calculation that we do is all based on 20, but I don't know that what all.
Okay. Yeah, soil volumes though are a very important topic these days with the county, and they are very strict on what is considered enough, spacing, et cetera. We do sometimes compromise them only to fit in another tree. And so sometimes there's that discussion of like, how many trees can we fit, and can we compress them all and get them a little bit less than the standard to get more trees? Here, I think we were standard with spacing there. So I think everything should have
yeah.
standard soil volumes.
Maybe could we have the information for PC? Yes. Thank you. Okay. Anything else on building height, form, and architecture? No. Moving along. Transportation. Questions, comments, concerns? Jim Todd online.
My question is just about the bike lane on Cherry Hill Road. Is it only going in front of this stretch of this property, or would it extend at least to the next street again past Yorktown? Or how long is the bike lane that this developer is proposing, and what? And then my question for the county is the county playing any role in the implementation of bike lanes beyond this property?
So the applicant's just proposing the bike lane in front of their property. To date, as far as I'm aware, there's no plans for immediately extending the bike lane. I know that we have the Langston Boulevard, so areas 2 and 3 study going on right now for transportation improvements later. But as far as I know, for the immediate future, we'd be looking, there's no plans for a bike lane to be extended.
Budget season.
Would it be both sides of the street or one side of the street?
One side of the street, yeah, we do. So we address our frontage. If we did anything off-site, that's the sort of thing folks do to earn bonus density. Developers have done that when they're earning lots and lots of density across, and they, build out infrastructure in a neighborhood, but we're improving our frontage.
Right, and again, I'll throw out, because we're losing 7,000 feet of open space, this is the kind of creative question I want to ask, is like, maybe you could paint the bike lane on the other side of the street, maybe you could extend the bike lane down the block. Just that's something for staff to think about and the developer to think about.
All right, Eric online, Eric Goodman, I saw your hand first, so go ahead.
Okay, again, a few things that were brought up by one of our members. They basically said that there's too much parking. They said that this is not as transit focused and micromobility focused as the Langston plan. They also recommended having a protected bike lane, at least at some level, more so than what's shown on here. Let's see, what else they say about just too many new roads, that too wide, bad for pedestrians, and there should be more paths and other things instead of all these roads and crossings within the property itself. I have one additional comment. At least the crossings themselves, within the property, at least the two of them that are that have what look like a crosswalk. I'm not sure if that's actually a crosswalk. They're not aligned. They're at like a 45-degree angle. They're not aligned with the crossings. That usually is troublesome because drivers and pedestrians don't see each other very well because the pedestrian's head is turned at a 45-degree angle. So I would like to see the curb ramps align with the crossings in all cases. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do Claire and then Tenley. Claire, did you have a?
Yeah, the street on that exits onto the Taylor Street side, where does that line up with the Taylor Street condos parking lot entrance?
It's very close to it. I mean, you can see it in the aerial. It's almost directly across the street, right?
Okay. We have a hard time seeing, I know that you guys are gonna change the street style, but we have a hard time seeing coming out of that corner. We just we have a steep driveway. So
being widened, I think that's gonna help, right? The visibility.
okay. Just kind of wanted to point that out so you guys can keep it in mind as we'll have a lot more traffic on that street. Is it still part of the Langston area plan to have that go through to all the way to?
It's not the cross street. Everything you're seeing on our plan are internal driveways that we are not planning to dedicate as public streets to the county.
Okay.
The planned cross street would really be to the north of that, in my view. I never thought it was on this property.
Okay, I thought that at one point it was at the Horizons parking lot.
Yeah.
But that could have been many
That's
iterations.
maybe depend on Yorktown redeveloping other things. I just wouldn't expect to see it for a couple decades. But,
Yeah.
Are you thinking about like the dash street that's shown on the street network map?
I think so, yeah.
It's like right on the property line between this and the.
Yeah, it's just.
Just trying to kind of get an idea of what traffic, pedestrian and all that coming.
Obviously, we hope that's a fairly low traffic, low impact sort of joining of those two properties, right? Because that's a cul-de-sac that ends at Horizon and it should be relatively quiet without fast travel and people, running into each other as they're trying to turn out of their driveways, hopefully.
When you guys are widening that Taylor Street as well, you're widening into your property, I'm assuming is what's going on there?
Part and parcel of this entire discussion about the open space and its size, which is, of course, has been like one of the most difficult topics in this case. Yeah, we lost like 3,000 square feet to that of site area that would have otherwise been open space, but it's now street.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, unrelated to the development that we have a lot of issues in narrowness of that street. So I think that the 2 lanes is a must, and especially if you're trying to put parking on both sides.
It's back to closer to Arlington standard, close.
Tenley.
So just 2 clarifying questions for staff related to the bike lane. If there's only one bike lane, is the opposite direction automatically a sharrow, and is it marked as such?
So, and bicyclists are welcome to use it, shared travel. It's not marked as such at this time or proposed, but I can double check for PC and TC. If there be any plans to do that in the future, just to, again, given that there is a bike lane for the westbound traffic.
Okay, and then the crosswalks that are shown in the picture, those are the existing crosswalks. So those will just stay where they are. Maybe they'll get repainted.
Yes,
right?
repainted and restriped.
David?
2 questions. One, on North Taylor, I believe the plan included a bike lane over there. Is that right?
The area plan calls for sharrows for North Taylor, and they're putting those. It's not bike lanes. Just,
I see.
Can you say, what is that?
Oh, share. It's the arrows, shared arrow designating. Just like people know that bicyclists are welcome to use the street. They're always anyway, but like it's really encouraging.
Okay.
It's an awareness safety thing. Like you'll think more about a cyclist to be less likely to murder them with your car if you're.
And then the second issue is whether or not you considered using some of the street parking spaces for rideshare drop-off spaces, that not having those can cause a lot of traffic congestion, safety issues, and more.
The county owns the street. So that's up to Bryce.
Right, not up to.
Not really.
I know, I mean, but it's a county controlled right away. So the actual public street parking on Taylor that we'll create is theirs. Our internal, street visitor parking is for the visitors of the owners, subject to HOA regulation, really, because that's all private.
Yeah, if this develops and there is an issue that we end up needing to designate it for 15-minute parking, we can do that. And if you ever want to make a recommendation, there's I forget what there's like an email link you can send offline for help Arlington, something like that.
I will say that, we did the walking tour. There are a lot of folks who came out and talked about there not being enough parking in the neighborhood and enjoyed the fact that there were 8 new spaces coming. So I'm sure that if that were considered, there'd be competition of folks who want to use the spaces as an extension of their lot. So.
Commissioner Torres?
This is gonna be a quick. Have you considered, or I don't know what the regulation would be with moving the north entrance closer to the corner and completely eliminating that street? Maybe shifting everything up and having the entrance be closer to the corner so that you have more green space and, less streets. I don't know if you've explored that option or not.
Yeah, we looked at a lot of options. Designing townhomes and townhome communities, as Karen White here will tell you, that it's a lot like a complex puzzle because you are working to solve for fire access, utility access, et cetera. And my guess is, and Karen and Frank here are the experts because they really worked hard on this layout, looked at all of those options in detail, is that top street there on Taylor is required for fire access.
I support not having a street.
So the amount of pavement that we have right now is the amount of pavement we need to access all of these units and provide appropriate safety measures, et cetera. We have tried to eliminate as much of it as we could.
Anything the team wants to add to that?
Seeing no further questions, let me just go back online. Mr. Todd, your hand is still up. Do you have another transportation related question? Sir.
Somebody asked it for me.
Okay, great. Thank you. So although we may have already discussed this as we've been doing transportation, then the next item on the agenda is parking. Are there any other comments, questions, concerns about parking?
I think it was helpful to see the layout of the garages. I did miss a little bit of that. So for the smallest units, it's truly a 1 car.
I was wrong. The
Okay.
16-foot wide ones have tandem, and so they do truly have 2 spaces, but it's, one after the other.
Yes.
It's the 19-foot that has 2 8.5 wide parking spaces, which are actually 8.6. They comply with Arlington County regulations for the size of the space, but we know that when people are in there with 2 cars and all their stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably not gonna fit.
But you could have 1 car in, 1 car out, and they could get around each other.
You could have 3 cars.
Okay, yeah. So that is for all except for the 16 units.
Yeah, and the 20s really do easily fit.
Okay.
The 2 cars in the garage.
And how many of the 16 units are there? What's the ratio for that?
What do we got with the numbers of each size unit?
16, okay. I think that makes me personally feel a lot better about the amount of visitor spots because that was a significant concern. Obviously, more would be better, but
it's new construction. People are going to be coming here knowing how many parking spaces they have and hopefully be able to plan for that and know that this is the unit or the property for them because it provides 2 spaces.
Yeah.
That's enough, hopefully, right? But understanding that becomes a major issue across the county where folks end up with 4 or 5 cars and they have a townhome and they want to park on the street, they've got kids, whatever. I do think that we added as much visitor parking as we could, and it's a generous parking ratio. 2 per unit is a good number.
To Claire's question for transportation PC, could you have your numbers together on those?
The differences.
Yes, thanks. Any other things? Parking. Okay, moving along to green building and sustainability. Peter.
Can you tell me the size of the stormwater detention units, underground stormwater detention units?
I can through my colleague Karen White, who's expert in stormwater.
So are you looking for, well, I don't know if I can look through maybe you keep the number, but I can also explain it if that helps.
I'm happy for an explanation
Okay.
as well.
So basically, you might have noticed that so every roof, every unit has its own bioretention. So every unit has water that goes downspout into the bioretention planter that ties underground. There are 2 underground retention systems. One is in that back road on the north side, and then one is under the road space area. Southeast side. And they're both underground storage. We also do have with them a manufactured device, like a cleaning device, like we're showing right now a jellyfish, which is that's what it's called, but it's like an underground filtering system that cleans the water. So each of those underground systems have storage for detention, and they have the cleaning structure as well.
Kevin, it's a stormwater management mitigation area where we're supposed to maximize underground detention. Does the county think that we are, with what the applicant has planned, maximizing underground detention?
We're still evaluating the water management for this, but they are sets in terms of maximizing. We wouldn't be recommending overlay in this application.
Bill.
Can you tell me more about what this planter?
Yeah, yes. So like you might see them on like single family homes,
Right.
newer homes around. Basically, it's concrete walls that are like, so basically you have the front of the building and then it looks like a planter. It's concrete walls, there's plants in it. These will not, sometimes you might see them, they're out of the ground a bit. You might go by a house, a couple feet out of the ground. Ours are pretty low. I think max 18 inches, maybe 2 feet above ground. So it'll be a low planter that would be concrete, and you wouldn't necessarily know it was a bioretention planter. I mean, if you kind of paid attention, you would see the downspout coming in. You could maybe notice the type of plants, and then there'll be one kind of a pipe coming up that's an overflow drain. So there's a lot of water in the water. They can't all like kind of get sucked into the soil. There's like an overflow outfall that ties.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, David.
A few different things, but I did want to talk open space and some of that first, because it also ties to things like heat island effect, and it's great that you've got the roof collection for the stormwater, but you've got a lot of roads, whereas right now there's a lot of grass, so that will also affect the amount of water flow. It'll affect the heat island effect, and it all like. You're looking at about a 26% canopy coverage versus the 35% goal. So it seems like is that the goal?
We've identified it as 35%.
Okay, so there's a 35% goal and you're at 26%. So I would just flag that these are all kind of compounding each other. It's not, the open space is incredibly important in and of itself, but now you've got several related sustainability issues that are also not being met, that the lack of open space could at least be one added solution to address.
I'll tell you one thing about the heat island, we're gonna have a high albedo.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. And I think, so I do think it's really important for you all to consider more open area and solutions to some of these issues. It's fantastic to hear that you're considering that for the roof. We're in a tricky situation from a C2E2 perspective that we just don't have information to evaluate this project. And I'm literally brand new to C2E2 and I'm the alternate and brand new to this project, so I don't know the history behind it all. But I do think we've got to figure out some way for a plan with a reasonable timeline. Because, typically we have this information far ahead of time, so it backs us into a significant corner in terms of this, without the information right now, our default would have to be to say, to recommend against this project.
Yeah, and we fully, look, we understand and make any recommendation that you see fit. We provide the information the county requires, and we give staff anything they want in addition to that, quite frankly. So we give them everything that we would ever give at this stage. So short of giving filters that we haven't developed yet, I'm not sure what we would give them. There are things that we haven't decided yet, but those are barely able to be decided right now at this point. I'm just not sure what you're missing.
Well, I guess I'm surprised to hear you say that because even though the Green Homes program isn't active, that gives you a lot of ideas about the kind of information that go into figuring out whether or not these would typically meet the minimum conditions. I would also say one of the concerns is if you're always targeting at the minimum, I think you're kind of missing the Arlington ethos and the Arlington market. This is a market of people who have a fair amount of money, care a lot about sustainability. I mean, I looked at the numbers just before this. I mean, we are across the board on issues of renewable energy, efficient appliances, open space, and more. We are typically in the 80% or higher and are among the highest in the nation when it comes to those issues. So, I think there's public information out there of what kind of information goes into determining whether or not these are green buildings. It's fantastic that you're open to potentially piloting something, and that'll be great to explore. But I would strongly encourage you, don't think of this as a minimalist opportunity when it comes to this stuff. There's huge marketing and consumer savings opportunities in addition to sustainability opportunities. You're worried about the structure being able to sustain solar roofs. Great, design and structure that can sustain solar roofs. It's even better than reflective surfaces. I guess one question is, are you including gas hookups for the houses?
No.
See, that's fantastic. So that's the kind of thing you all could brag about, and that we could say, look, these are going to be all electric homes. That's a great sustainability.
It is, and we talk about that a lot in all of these meetings and whatnot. I will say that we had a great forum this summer, the GIP update with a lot of different stakeholders from the community. And we had a bunch of developers in the room that participated in this focus group, and the general consensus from the developers in the room, and I'm not saying it's like true or whatever, is that generally speaking, these features do not drive anybody's choices of where they live, unfortunately. They're not seeing it as anything that is helping people choose their buildings over a different one. And that's unfortunate because it's not creating extra demand. So we went and reinforced the roof, but the unit cost $200,000 more. We're worried we're not even going to install them. So strengthening it for a green roof or something, I mean, we just don't know that we're going to get that back. And we think we would end up building something no one would buy. That's the concern, I think.
So I just quickly say, it sounds like you're doing and planning on doing some good stuff. I think it's unfortunate that none of that is included in these materials, because that would give us a lot more to be able to evaluate on all of this. I would also say, relative to the marketing, that same argument has been used for decades across industries, and it's been proven wrong over and over again. The problem is often consumers either don't know about the options, they aren't marketed towards consumers, and if you don't have a market, you don't have demand. So there's this kind of, as long as you keep saying no and don't create the market, consumers don't know enough and don't have the options to say yes. So the data is going to keep saying they don't want it, or it doesn't help upsell, but that's because the market isn't actually there and isn't actually working.
So before I move on, so will we have, in advance of TC and PC the information that they need in order to evaluate where they stand on this project?
I don't know what that is.
So at that point, we will have draft conditions, which a lot of these green building commitments be kind of memorialized in by the time of transportation commission. I know you and your commission kind of provide those letters well ahead of other commissions, so I don't know if it'll be ready in time for your letter, but definitely by the time transportation commission.
Yeah, and to be clear, that would be the green building commitments that we make. I announced those in this meeting and in the last one. I think they're in our letters and other supporting materials and in response to comments shared. That's what I was trying to say, is that we have a lot of material the county has, the staff has. I just wonder if you need to see it. Maybe something clarified.
Well, yeah, but to the specific questions that he's asking, there will be a general, some level of rebuilding conditions. It's not going to be a detailed program. It's not. It's zoning use, et cetera. I'm not going to say we're going to achieve, we may say we achieve a certain level of NGBS program that we're looking at. Maybe we'll achieve certification or we'll incorporate certain elements, certain building elements, whether it's type of installation, ceiling, et cetera. So that will be defined in some way as a site plan condition, but there won't be any engineering analysis. There won't be any additional design information that will be provided in any of those meetings.
So is that enough for you to, your committee? And I also know that the commissions that then plan on speaking in front of transportation or commission, often the meetings where they can conclude that these letters are okay, don't give them enough time. So I'm just trying to make sure that we have in this process the opportunity for you to adequately put your thoughts together. If not, I would make the following suggestion that if the letter cannot be delivered within a time frame because of your meeting structures, that, you know, you speak live, either in person or virtually at the commissions with what the letters cover, so that because we want to hear from you.
And I really appreciate that. And one clarification
Too, if you'd like us to, we would visit you guys, present and talk as long as you want.
and that may make sense. We'll see. In terms of the materials, I will say I went on the website, I looked through everything, and there was nothing there.
I'm wondering if
so I
it
don't know if
you're
something
used to
didn't
seeing
get-
things from like the Green Building Incentive Program, if we apply
I would-
through that, I don't know.
I do make all the information publicly available. There is no sustainability documentation currently submitted as
Because
part of your
didn't go for the incentive program plan, so I think that's part of the whole
That's
process.
So he is correct.
But that's what he's looking for, it's just not there.
Townhouse construction doesn't typically call out for something to be LEED silver. It's not standard for essentially low residential construction. BCN, my company, we've been certified previously as Green Home Choice. We've submitted projects to the county, so we have experience in it. It's just not there's not the kind of framework that you're looking for with respect to this level of construction. We've done other townhouse projects in the community, and we know exactly what we can do.
They
That's
are-
our goal. I mean, we've built hundreds of homes across the country.
And they are committing Energy Star appliances, water sense fixtures, EV charging, LED lights. All of those elements we could commit to, and they would go on the conditions that be required of us.
So I think in terms of process, I'm gonna have to talk to folks on the commission, because this seems like it's a very unique, or at least recently unique situation for us.
It's
given
different.
The dynamics with the
Townhomes
the social.
Well, and it's a different framework within which you will have to, as a commission, create your comments, and that you could frame your comments that, you know, this is, you know, without information, it's difficult to, you know, but still, we want to make sure that we hear from you, so there are options available. And again, you're more than, I know that you've already, because I've seen those. So, yeah, so.
And what would be the timeline? You said typically it's linked to the timeline of something else. What would that timeline be?
So there is a transportation commission report that is posted 3 days before that meeting date, which does have the draft condition.
I can also just email you exactly what we commit to.
Yeah.
Get in touch with me. And
So
I'll tell you
hopefully
once we've
between
done it.
all of that, we can get you squared away. I appreciate everyone's patience on this, but this is a commission that has important things and I want to make sure. that we hear from them.
Thank you. Really
Okay,
appreciate
I've
that.
lost, okay.
I did want to mention for the record too, modern townhomes are fairly energy efficient. So if we are able to do this other certification program that might be more feasible, we might be able to help demonstrate to the county that a modern townhome is fairly energy efficient. That might be useful data for, yeah, that's just neither note that I
Just
want.
whatever we need to do to help them so that
That's
they
great.
can give their
Yeah, and there could be,
review.
I would love for there to be opportunities as part of this.
Thank you. So let's go to Sandy.
So I just had a question for staff. I know that they're not meeting the 35% tree count. But I thought that under the Langston Boulevard area plan, that doesn't kick in until you have 7 stories or higher. I'm sure.
Our interpretation is site allowing up to 7 stories. The recommendation is 35%. The site does allow up to 7 stories, therefore,
But the development is for 4 stories.
but it allows.
Within up to.
I think it's seven. No,
I don't think that's-
7 and above.
Yeah, it's 7 and above. It's pretty clear in the Langston Boulevard area plan. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
Agree on this.
Okay, because we were sidetracked here.
I'm wondering if there's because you were talking about the future owners being able to customize the units. Is that something that they can do also if they decide that they want a live roof? They wanted, like she was asking about either live roof or planters or some form. Sometimes you can get credits from the county on live roofs. Can they beef up? Can you beef up the structure? I mean, I don't know. How customizable is that roof?
Honestly, people would prefer to put PVs up there. That would keep, that would put money back.
Photovoltaic solar.
And really make a difference. If you put a green roof up there, how do you service it, or how do you know it's thriving? It's very big. And if you're gonna pay for all the additional cost of paving up the roof, might as well get your money back by creating a PV panel, so that you can get it back.
Both.
But I think you can do both. And not only that,
You would cover it with as many PVs as you possibly.
I understand there are benefits to having a green space around you that are far beyond just having a efficient home. I think people would want to have both. If someone's sick and they just are in a garden, it's a 30% chance faster that they're going to heal. I mean, there's things that I understand your argument. I just think you guys are not really listening to what we're saying is that we would at least like for you to look at it as an option, because right now it is possible to look at it as an option rather than later on, once we have to vote for it, we're kind of just stuck with whatever. And maybe you're right. Maybe no one would pick it as an option, but out of all of the United States, this is one place that maybe people actually would. So.
Okay, anything else on green building and sustainability? That's going twice. Moving on. Construction phasing. Any questions, concerns? Comments? No. All right, community benefits. Karen.
I don't want to keep us here. So I do mean for this to be short. You noted at the beginning of your presentation that this contributed to expanding housing options and choices. For the applicant, can you tell me at what percentage of price point do you envision these sell at?
Yeah, based on the market, I know we talked about this last time, and I threw out a number that was not realistic. I think I was too high. Brian, you want to guess range? Or even give out a comp of like what's a neighborhood? Right.
There's very little townhouse development, new construction in Arlington right now. Townhouses that are on the market that are new, that have sold in recent years, at roughly this size, approximate between 1.3 to 1.5 million. It's probably the range of what sales you see currently. But once again, we're talking about a project that doesn't deliver here for years. So It's anybody's guess as to what that is at that point in time.
It could go even higher, quite frankly, because the price of anything in this region is sky high. I have clients in a home builder in Culpeper. You guys know where Culpeper is. It's 2 hours from here. These are folks who are probably working remote, though sometimes they'll come to DC, about, again, 2 hours. Those houses sell for, and they're about 3,500 square feet. They have basements. They're not big mansions at all. They're just kind of the box that you build these days if you're going to build anything. They're about $850,000, and anytime the locality is not slowing them down, they can sell 30 of them a month at $850,000 2 hours away in Culpeper. It's crazy. So anything up here that is livable is going to be at a minimum what Brian is saying, and I wouldn't be surprised to see even worse appreciation, especially if the local economy improves with hopefully maybe a change in leadership. A lot of things that can happen here.
I see. Fellow commissioners are asking about sort of these modifications and how communities could potentially benefit from it. I do think that there's a consideration, and going back to what Commissioner Peterson said for the Lucky Gardens, is that there is some sort of offsetting that we need to do, right? Do we increase the price? We're already, I looked at some comps, and Nia, please feel free to, you're a real estate guru. So, between 1.45 million to 8.8 million, new builds for single family homes, we're looking at 2.9 million. I guess the bottom line I'm sort of getting at is, yes, this provides housing options, but let's be candid with how we're presenting the information, that this is not really for affordability. Perhaps to a certain extent, yes, less than 2.9 million, but it's not necessarily going to add a supply along Langston Boulevard and of course there's a give and take, but just something to be said that if we're presenting information, we should be forthright about it and just say, hey, this is going to be luxury high end, but not sort of frame it in a way as if it's expanding sort of affordability in some respects.
I guess I just really strongly disagree, because everything,
You're welcome to.
everything right now has to be at the top of the market. It's impossible to build something that is like at the price of a subsidized affordable unit absent subsidy from the government, right? I mean, the only way that we build affordable housing that is affordable to people is because we have a government subsidy to subsidize the rent. If you're building something new, it's just dependent on the market, and it's going to come out at the top of the market, because that's just the nature of how things work in this country and have for hundreds of years, for better or worse.
So what you're telling me is that we're going to approve a project that just sort of keeps the status quo.
So there are studies that will show you, and they've been published in Greater Washington, both from Pew, I want to say, and from professors at Howard University, that analyzed what happened when new units came online in neighborhoods of DC at the top of the market, like everything that's new does. And they demonstrated that they reduced rents in other parts of
so what you're
the
speaking to
district,
is
because
filtering.
more competition and more supply helps reduce prices. No project that comes forward that's a market rate project is ever going to be able to offer anything but a market price for a unit. That's just never going to happen. Nobody's going to come in here and just offer to build a building unless they are an affordable housing developer that is either using money that was donated or is using a government subsidy to provide rents in that. It's just not possible.
Again, I wasn't saying not to meet your bottom line, right? If not, you wouldn't be in this business. But I would just say that I would encourage you in the way that you are putting it forth, just to be, hey, these are luxury units. And I understand the concept, obviously, of filtering, being on this commission. There's also studies that have actually concluded the opposite. So we're all welcome to our opinions, just like you are.
I do want to just clarify this slide. This slide is intended to kind of highlight the recommendation and goals of the plan. This is not staff's analysis yet. We haven't made our final recommendation. I just wanted to kind of elevate the key plan goals for everyone's consideration as we review, for instance, does this expand equitable housing? This is kind of just setting the stage for discussion.
Something that we wanted to emphasize too is that a townhome community with units that are priced at roughly where Brian was saying they would be priced at is obviously delivering ownership opportunities that are far less expensive than new single family construction. And so it is in that sense a far more affordable way for a family to start a life in Arlington with something they own versus a single family property, because obviously single family brand new is up to close to 3 million now. So a smaller unit in a townhome in a denser development can provide a less expensive option. So it is different options for it in that sense.
I think what we're trying to say is that you're gonna set a precedent of having an ultra luxury townhome in Arlington, which makes sense. It's a very affluent area. However, it does provide a starting line of what potentially can happen down the line. And I have no problem with that, but I agree with Commissioner Rivera that we would want the presentation to be a little bit more honest and say, this is gonna be ultra luxury. And, these are the benefits, these are the cons. But also, if you're gonna provide ultra luxury, I'm a little disappointed that some of the questions we've asked about, could you add a green roof? Could you add solar? If you're providing ultra luxury, that's kind of standard now in that market, I would assume. So I wish you all the best. I really hope this goes through. But my concern is if these units, you mentioned Culpeper 800. The reason people buy those is because it's still close enough to come to DC and it's below $1 million and it's providing the space that they need. And so they're having to move out to Culpeper, and so they have the market where they can sell it. What you're doing is you're putting all your eggs in one basket because this is a zip code that's very desirable in a school district that's very desirable. And so you're doing, I'm sorry for the lack of my vocabulary, the bare minimum and trying to get the most for that. And I would have wanted to see a presentation where you are maybe doing $2 million townhomes, but they are providing all these things that we have never really seen, so.
I will stop. That's fine.
Can I make just one point? We've never said we're providing ultra luxury.
We can't hear you, I'm sorry.
We've never said we're providing ultra luxury townhouses. So those words were just added to the description as a perception that a townhouse price of 1.5 million is ultra luxury. It's basically a market product. So I just want to make that clarification. Housing optionality wasn't meant to be affordable. It is one type of housing. Word optionality doesn't mean it's affordable. Affordable housing is a different component. So in terms of the analysis, townhouses have basically been eliminated from the Arlington zoning code over the past 25 years by action taken by the county. And now it's, well, look at every other jurisdiction and changing every office building and the retail site and townhouses, providing type of housing that is in most demand and most affordable to the largest segment of the group. So we are providing a high quality product, but it's not ultra luxury. These are at $500,000 easily in terms of luxury components. So I just a clarification, that's all. Say that we're not presenting what they're.
Well, and again, too, obviously, any of these other finishes, which we will look into and continue to report on the viability of adding things like photovoltaics and green roof, et cetera, those would obviously all add to the cost of the units too. Just to be clear, but sorry, I'm pulling up.
So I think it's important, and you may already know this from Arlington, this market, when you use the word affordability, to us, that means affordability at 60% AMI, which is much, much lower. So we try to use the word attainable if we are talking about different pricing along a scale. So don't ever use the word affordability unless you're talking about 60% AMI when talking to this group of folks. So I think that sometimes leads to.
That's smart. I'm gonna do that.
But I did have a question about community benefits, which is just this public space that we have, which will be very nice. Will it somehow be noted that it is public so that people walking by will realize that anybody in the neighborhood or anybody in the county can sit down and read, and it's not just something that's exclusive to the owners of the property?
I can double check on DPR staff whether it will be signed or not. I think one of the hallmarks of a good public space is like automatically know it's public. This one's a bit different, you know, it's right up against some townhouses. So I will check on that.
I think a sign is a great idea. I completely agree.
Not necessarily. Sorry, buffer, please. If you look at townhouses in Market Commons in back, this is very similar to what that. So I think it's Fillmore Street. The park engages the street. The sidewalk is right there. The pathways come in off the street. So this should absolutely encourage you to come in. I don't believe the county park say, hey, we're a county park, come on in, it's free. So, you know,
I think the Market Common Park does now have a sign that you can see it's an official sign.
Yeah.
So Market Common,
They do.
that park does have a sign. I think.
on the backside, in front of the
On the,
townhouse.
yeah, that big, yeah,
Where
around
the
the,
dog park,
around the, not the dog, around the, where the townhouses are on two sides, that
Yeah,
big
it's
park.
what everybody uses.
It was redone recently, and I think it does now have a sign.
Because I've not seen that sign.
It didn't used to, but I think it has one now.
But
I'll double check.
It does, the bigger point is that's how it engages the street and the sidewalk. So it's definitely a component of the community that's
It does feel open in the sense of like, you know, along those sidewalks, I do think it is kind of inviting people in, and that's been the crux of what we've been talking to staff about. Agree completely with Kevin.
What we don't want it to be is like on Clarendon Boulevard, one of the buildings will be torn down. I think it's the 2500 office building has a huge public space that 99 out of 100 people would never occur to them to.
absolutely agree with that. We agree.
And so it'll be listed on like the Parks and Rec website as a parklet, or will it not? Will it have a name?
I have to get back to you on that.
Good question.
There were, I just want to respond to that also, since I also chaired the artist SPRC project. During that project, for any of you who were here for that, we talked extensively about maybe naming it something along the lines of cherries because it's in a, yes. Yes, so just, we did talk about that. So as Kevin mentioned, we will be following up with DPR about that. So we'll have that in time for PC. See,
That was gonna be my comment too. Under artists, you might check that there was going to be a sign. And it's going to honor our former president.
Yeah, I know we talked extensively also about cherries. I do remember that because that whole area was brought up because of cherries. So, okay. Any other comments about community benefits? Jim, Todd online, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump on the sign idea. I think that really will make it feel welcome to the public. A 2012 site plan in Cherrydale on the corner of Monroe Street and Langston, across the street from the Safeway. I just reviewing that plan because we're trying to fix the art and the median that the site plan did. And that, you know, you should all take a look at it. It labels a tiny little space as a public plaza. And nobody, including me, ever knew that that was actually a public plaza because it's just kind of hidden in the front corner of the building and it just looks like a patio in front of the Little Ambassadors Academy. So I think that it can be very deceptive to the public unless something is labeled as something recognizable as public. So I think that this is really, really, really critical. And I just want to thank everyone else for bringing up the idea of the sign and reminding everyone that we did discuss a sign at the artist project. Thanks again.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other hands or anything. So I think at this point we are going to go to public comment. And we have 3 public commenters. Go ahead. So 2 minutes each, please.
So first up, we have Joan online.
Okay, good evening, I'm Joan McIntyre, I'm a resident of Cherrydale. Well, I do appreciate this project that it will offer some more affordable housing, but clearly not really affordable to our housing stock. In general, I'm concerned that it doesn't really meet the county's vision for the Langston Boulevard area plan or for to be a green Main Street. The proposed tree canopy in particular of 26% is pretty low compared to the 35% target and will make it harder to meet the county's 40% tree canopy goal. Moreover, the site has a lot of impervious surfaces, as mentioned, with buildings, streets, and walkways. So it really creates a condition for an urban heat island, just as we're seeing increasingly warmer temperatures. It is more encouraging that you're looking into some green building certification, and more details would be useful. Clearly, energy efficiency and electrification are pretty critical to meeting county goals for carbon neutrality, as well as actually lowering the energy cost for the residents themselves. And, encourage that you are actually hoping that you're actually using, not only well insulated buildings as you talked about, but also heat pump technology for heating, cooling, hot water dryers, as well as induction cooking for lower costs and reduced indoor air pollution. Encourage that it will be all electric and that you're looking for EV ready garages and also considering a solar ready roof. And finally, I just would encourage the applicant to actually explore the potential for installing geothermal systems that would essentially supercharge energy efficiency. And there are companies out there that will provide geothermal as a service. So that might be something to consider if it pencils out. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginger?
Hi, I'm Ginger Brown. I'm with the Langston Boulevard Alliance, and I spent a long time working on Plan Langston Boulevard. I spent maybe a dozen years working on it, I think. And I do want to say that we are actually excited about this project. We believe this site has gone through 2 failed owners. The community has been through numerous site plans. We spent a lot of time on the artist site plan. The park that you see is the same park that went through an entire community process, and we actually think it's quite for the size of the property, it's actually quite a nice open space, and we are happy with it. It's also important to understand that this project isn't a multifamily building, but it is going to provide housing that's needed in our community. And I know there's a lot of discussion on affordability. But houses in our neighborhoods are in the 2 million. So I know that it's all relative, but a $1.2 million house is important because there are many people in our neighborhood that have single family homes that want to move out of those single family homes, age in place. They don't want the yard. And then those houses will come available and make room for other families, for the fourplexes that were passed in the missile projects. There's a lot of opportunity. We think that this is a good project for our neighborhood. And we're excited. We're also very excited to hear about this pilot project for the park. So that's where we are. But I also want to say very quickly that in Plan Langston Boulevard, Artist was an approved site plan. So nobody was commenting from the neighborhood. There was no owner commenting on what was good for this site. The LBA never commented on the site, so it ended up in the plan, but there was really no discussion. So it is in the plan, but it wasn't really talked about. There wasn't any real engagement on this site.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bernie Byrne online.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you? Yep. Thank you. This project is much too high. This project's density is much too high. Because its use will be residential, the site needs more green space to accommodate trees and low vegetation that will support butterflies and other pollinators, as well as to increase livability. It will increase the neighborhood's need for schools, parks, and other public amenities rather than contribute anything. All buildings should have flat roofs to create opportunities for green roofs and solar panels. It is extremely important to remove the lawn from the public space. Lawns provide little habitat for pollinators and create stormwater runoff. They are very unfriendly to the environment and do not create biophilia. Most turf grasses are non-native invasives. Their mowing uses energy and creates air noise pollution. Replace the lawn with native trees, shrubs, and perennials that support native pollinators. This is the most important thing I'm saying. Flowering native vines should hang from the roofs and balconies. They should also climb from the ground on trellises to create green walls between rows of windows. The project's plant schedules show that 12 species are not native to Arlington and its vicinity, and that 11 will be cultivars. Cultivars often don't feed pollinators because they have altered flower structures or are toxic to insects. Replace all natives, non-natives, and cultivars with plants that are native to Arlington and its vicinity and have similar characteristics such as height, spread, and flower and leaf color. Monarch butterfly caterpillars feed only on milkweed. Common milkweed is the most important of these in Arlington and its vicinity. However, the plant schedules do not list common milkweed. It's very important to add common milkweed to the schedules. I have sent the applicant detailed information about my suggested changes to the plant schedules. I haven't seen any of these. The applicant should change the schedule before the Planning Commission meets to discuss this project.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. I just want to personally, again, thank you for showing up at all of these meetings all the time and defending the monarch butterfly. I think you have elevated the conversation on monarch butterflies in Arlington more so than anyone. And I hope someday that somebody names a park after you and that there's a pollinator section in it.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Having welcome. Having said that, will we, I'm also a master gardener. Will we have common milkweed?
I think we do, but we're gonna look at the plant list. We're gonna
Thank
look
you.
at the plant list, we'll come, and then it gets finalized FLP, but we can come with a list of what we're thinking about
Thank
right
you.
now. Talk about the milkweed, I can't make any promises. but-
Okay, so and in addition to, we favor native plants over cultivars. So if we could just, and in terms of his comment about the lawn, yes, the lawn is, would there be other things, native grasses, other things that also feed, local wildlife and butterflies and things like that? Would you have something like?
So our landscape architect is actually on the call if you want some more detail, or we are resubmitting tomorrow, just so you know, we are resubmitting package, and we have gone through staff comments and taken the last meeting. So that package will include.
Okay, so in other words, Dr. Byrne will have that in advance of PC.
Yeah.
So,
Get the resub.
yes, so we can discuss it again then. As you know, some of us will discuss it whether you're there or not. Okay. All right, moving along, final comments. Let's go around the room. David.
Just looking forward to more information and being able to engage on this. And, if this can become a model opportunity for others, that's great. And just to reinforce and echo some of the comments that were made here about creating optionality for people does seem really important, whether it's green roofs or solar or many other things. Because there isn't a lot of open space there. So.
Steve.
On behalf of Waverly Hills, we're very supportive of the plan. It is in accord with the Langston Boulevard area plan. There are many primary community benefits for the neighborhood, primarily stormwater management, the 10,000 plus square foot privately owned, publicly accessible open space. We appreciate the parking because this was the community's biggest concern during the many conversations on artists, and 2 spaces per unit plus visitor spaces is important to us. We appreciate the increased walkability in the bike lane. We hope for the native shade trees. And we appreciate the contemporary architecture. And we also appreciate the housing supply because one of the issues in our neighborhood conservation plan is to be able to age in the neighborhood. And townhouses do allow that, as Ginger mentioned. And we also appreciate if they do more green building certification. So
I appreciate all the information you provided.
comments.
No new comment, just appreciate everybody's discussion on the open space, which is the key issue for the PRC.
And if this couldn't be an artist-like project for assisted living, independent living, then this is a good use because, as has been mentioned, townhouses is a building form that's in short supply in this county. And it does help address that shortage. So I think it's overall a good project, not perfect, but it's a good project. it should go forward.
No addition. Nothing further.
Paula?
Just, for me, just those lines of the alignment of balconies and garages, because it seemed a little scattered to me, like maybe the evolution of the project will bring all of that to fruition, because I know it said ahead of its disclaimer that it's not finished. So I'm looking forward to the iterations.
Adriana?
I'm looking forward to see what the rest of the community has to say about this, and I'm gonna look for the emails with the feedback of what people think. It sounds like the community really wants this, which means it will be approved. But I do feel like there are things that are lacking in this project. And it's setting a precedent for something that goes against a lot of what Arlington's trying to do. So it's not to
When we support the project, I reiterate Ginger's point of the several failed. This has been an eyesore in the neighborhood for quite some time, and appreciate the widening of the street, the parking. Those are the entrance from our condo units is top of mind for us, and relying on the county to make sure all the sounds like the water storage we do. I mean, I keep a flooding bag in my front yard, because just in case it gets up there on the lower level of the Taylor Street property. So
Thank everyone for their time. I'm looking forward to the camp list. That's it.
And an online, Jim?
I just wanted to echo everything that Sandy and Jim Lentelme said. I think that overall this is a fantastic project. I do want to ask county staff especially, but also the developer to just think about a few marginal things that could be done to address the fact that the tree canopy is a little low on the site. Could there be other trees planted down the block, across the street, something like that? Substantial trees done to site plan standards, not terrible county standards where the trees don't have a chance. And could there be something done in cooperation with the county using its CIP funds, or, I mean, and we're talking bike lane paint, it's cheap. Could the developer, could something be done just to marginally increase the bike lane beyond just this one side of the street and just in front of this property? Could it at least extend a block in each direction? And just think about those little marginal things that would actually make this noticeably better. And finally, please put a sign in the park. Thank you.
Okay, Eric Goodman. Final comments?
Yeah, really just to make certain that you look at improving pedestrian safety within those internal streets. If you can shorten the crossings, that would be great. And if you can align the curb ramps with crossings, I think that would help to increase visibility and make it a little safer for pedestrians. Thank you.
Karen Auda?
I would concur with what Eric just shared around pedestrian safety and accessibility. Thanks.
And is Commissioner Berkey still online? He left. Okay. So did I get everybody? I see hands are still up. I think maybe you didn't bring your hands down. Yes? Okay, great. All right. Having said that, I want to thank everybody very much for their ongoing participation in this project, and the community members. I hope that you will continue to stay involved in the project. There are continued opportunities for you to be involved, and Kevin will be reaching out. Chairs with him recently, where compared to past years, the level of seeking ongoing communication with the community is at a record high. And, leading up even to, the commission hearings. So, again, we anticipate this will come before, or we hope it will come before the commissioners in April, as well as the county board. So, if you ever have any questions, please reach out to staff. Again, thank you, staff, all the stakeholders there. participating this evening, and stay well, and we didn't do any spoilers tonight. Go home and watch, you're gonna really.
I actually already know.
If everybody could pass in